Welcome to the Stress Free Dentist podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Block. As always, I want to inspire, entertain, and educate you on the best tools and technologies out there. My goal is to help make your practice and career more profitable, efficient, and most importantly, more enjoyable. And check out all of my nonfiction and children's books on Amazon. And check out the stressfreedentist.com for any upcoming events. And if you're feeling you're a dental professional that's burnt out, or you just feel stuck or want to get to that next level, visit the International Academy of Dental Life Coaches or www.iadlc.com, and we'll get you matched up with a life coach that understands dentistry. I also wanted to thank our amazing sponsor, Equa Marketing. They have helped me and my practice over the years to improve with SEO and website performance. And to find out how you can make your practice dominate in your area, go to www.equa.com/MSMSFD to book your complimentary meeting. Again, that's www.ekwa.com/MSMSFD. All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode. And today we are joined by Dr. Scott Drucker. Scott, thanks so much for joining us.
Eric, thank you for having me. I'm relatively new to the podcast game, and I think I've got maybe mid-30s episodes recorded, and then I was checking out your stuff, and you have, what is it, 200 some odd?
Yeah, I was not good when I first started. And to this day, even I still don't like the sound of my voice. So I'm like, why did I start a podcast? But I did it during the quarantine. That's when I started getting the whole process going, and I just love chatting with people in the industry like yourself. And I want to get into all about your podcast and everything that you're up to, and a bunch of questions for you. But yeah, it's been a fun ride doing a podcast. I really enjoy it. You meet so many cool people, you learn so much, and I like to get people that are smarter and more interesting than me on. So you're one of them. So Scott Drucker, let's hear your story. How did you first even decide to become a dentist and then a periodontist?
Yeah, so I suppose the first part of that's not the most exciting story, but both of my parents are physicians, and grew up in a very say healthcare oriented household, and both of them have been through the trials and tribulations of the health, the goods and the bads of the healthcare system as it exists in our country, and dealing with hospital systems and whatnot. And so they both encouraged me to look at dentistry as an option. I Even before dental school, I had shadowed at a couple of different places, one of which was a periodontist's office, and was way more interested and excited by what I saw there than I suppose what you'd call the bread and butter dentistry. So it was kind of in the back of my mind from even before dental school, and then kind of stuck that plan. So
And where did you go to dental school, and then where'd you do your perio residency?
yeah, I did both my undergrad and dental school at University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, and came to the University of Illinois at Chicago for residency for perio.
And you ended up staying there, correct? You're actually living in the burbs of Chicago, right?
That's right. I'm just north of the city. And yeah, I we were joking a little bit offline earlier. Grew up in South Florida, and so people here ask me all the time, why in the world are you up here in Chicago, especially in the winter? And it's like, well, lots of great reasons, weather aside. So, but no, I stuck here actually. So I suppose just bridge into this now. Started the company Supply Clinic while in residency, and so already had a young company by the time I graduated, and so was kind of anchored here, just but by that nature alone.
Can you just go back to that for a second? First of all, can you explain exactly what Supply Clinic is and where did the idea come from, and how did you do that during residency?
Yeah, I'll touch on the last part last. The So Supply Clinic is an online marketplace for dental supplies. So think Amazon, but for dental. So the platform hosts many different sellers of supplies, pretty seamless shopping, price comparing, that sort of thing. Over the years, we built out a procurement software component to the company, which allows multi-location groups and larger DSOs to be able to manage and organize their spend across other locations. So was really in the weeds on e-commerce procurement sort of side of things, and prior to jumping in, had no background in it. Had the idea for the company actually shopping around for stuff that I had to buy for my residency. Realized that, was put in touch with a Shine rep and a Patterson rep, and realized there's this whole ecosystem of, the largest of the sellers, and then mid-market sellers, smaller sellers, and there just wasn't a good, reliable, trustworthy way to go about that seamlessly at the time. And so I was in residency, had a master's thesis project kind of stuck in the IRB, which is Institutional Review Board process. So, the university was taking their sweet time to give my project the green light, and we went through month after month, iteration after iteration. And so had some, I suppose, extra time where all of my colleagues, or co-residents, were working away at their own projects. And so yeah, got the project started, roped in my brother and co-founded the company with him. And yeah, came to the point at the end of residency where I kind of had to make a decision whether or not to go the predictable, typical path and go, find an office to practice at, and grow that way, and actually had a couple of nice offers towards the end of school to join practices. And also had this young company that I had spent a lot of time building up to that point. And I suppose the decision was mostly about minimizing regret. I decided that it was, the sort of easier, predictable path is just going to work at the offices, and, would never really have. I guess I would have handed the keys over to my brother in entirety, but would have missed that opportunity, and thought that I can always jump back to the the bread and butter perio, we'll call it. And yeah, made the decision to come out of school, go very full time on the business. And I still, even at that point, practiced at a minimum about a day a week. So still kept my hands wet, so to speak, treating patients throughout. But yeah, I'll pause there.
So you saw there was a problem, and actually thinking back when I did my implant residency at BU and went to Nova Southeastern for dental school, we didn't have an option to when we had to buy our supplies. It was just here's the package, this is what you're getting. There wasn't any options for us. So that's great that you were able to do that and turn that into, you saw there was a need and a problem. You actually turned that into a business. And the time, for me, I didn't become an entrepreneur until COVID. COVID and during the quarantine is what gave me the time to start to, do other things than just
Yeah,
dentistry.
that I didn't address that part of your question. The bottom line is it was brutal. I mean, I had a very, very heavy workload between all of the residency, the academic stuff tied to the, related to the masters, all the time in surgery. And then I would basically leave at, whatever it was, 5:30 every day. And in Chicago, take the train into to the downtown area of the city, right off of the river. Our original office space was in a shared kind of health tech startup space called Matter in the Merchandise Mart. And so I would start my work days like, 5:30, 6 p.m., grind it out till like 10 at night, and go home, go to sleep, and repeat. So it was a brutal grind. I do not recommend that to anybody to start a business while in residency. It's kind of, yeah, it's not a good idea in hindsight. But I did it, and I'm grateful that I did.
Yeah, I always say, better late than never. I started late, but to do something other than just be a dentist is so rewarding, especially have a passion for something. So that's great, man. Good for you. Now tell me about the podcast. I first of all, I love listening to it because it gives me a perspective of the industry side of things. You and Janesh, you have sometimes it's just you two chatting. Sometimes you have guests on, but the topics are great and there's no BS. You guys jump right into it and cover great topics and ask great questions.
Yeah, so the two of us we met on I'll call it like the dental industry, the conference circuit. So Janesh has a company called Uptime Health. They do effectively two different products. One is they've got a dashboard to log all of your equipment, all the equipment in a dental practice, and effectively keep track of the health of all of that equipment for you. So, in essence, to minimize downtime of the equipment, hence the name Uptime Health. They also have a marketplace for equipment service and repair people. So, if you've got, your unit goes down and your Shine rep or Patterson rep is super busy, they've got a whole network of people that are effectively both in those companies and third party service people. And so the two of us, me with Supply Clinic, him with Uptime Health, would have conversations at a lot of these conferences and what I'll call now offline conversations. And we said, hey, these are interesting. We get to talk to interesting people, and kind of where the two of us came together. He's not a dentist by background. He's more of the kind of engineering and techie background, but we'd have these conversations that effectively were at the intersection of oral health and the dental profession and industry and business startup technology. And so that's kind of how that's the angle or the focus of the podcast is the two of us will cover in some of the episodes, it's just the two of us talking about news topics, and we give our hot takes on the current events. And in others, we interview really interesting people who contribute to the space in some way, shape, or form. So other startup founders or C-suite executives at some of the largest companies in the dental space. Or folks from the ADA, or just others that I think are I'll call thought leaders, generally speaking, and will ask questions that are interesting to the two of us. And we do it as a hobby and a passion of our own, and are just kind of sharing those conversations with the world.
Yeah, I love it, and it's called the Open Wide Podcast. And
Yes.
is it on YouTube and Spotify and Apple?
Yeah, so Open Wide Podcast is hosted on pretty much every major podcast host. So yes, Apple Podcast, Spotify. We do upload pretty much all the videos. We do both audio and video recording to YouTube. So we do have a YouTube channel there. Although the vast majority of folks listen in on one of the podcast hosts. But yeah, it's all up there for public consumption, and yeah, we hope people find it interesting. We certainly do.
Yeah, like I said, I love it because it gives you a behind the scene, pull the curtain behind the scene to see some of the industry side of things, which is great. You guys do a great job. All right, now tell me what's next for you. You've got the podcast, you have your supplyclinic.com, you're a periodontist. What's next?
Yeah, so I have stepped back and transitioned into a call it advisory role at Supply Clinic. So I'm not in the weeds day to day anymore, which is super nice to have built to the point we can that I can do that. And now I just want to change the way that dentistry is delivered. And refocus and get rid of a lot of the, I'll call perverse incentives in the space. A lot of the insurance paradigm, I think, is the insurance paradigm in dental is just kind of a broken system that introduces a lot of waste, a lot of poor treatment, poorly delivered treatment, and yields a lot of treatment that just never gets done in the first place. And so, kind of triangulating around building out a practice concept that solves a lot of those issues. And also sort of refocuses and re-incentivizes practitioners on kind of away from a production mindset and over to a health mindset, a what I'll call health and happiness mindset. So, um, yeah, that was a lot, and we can go into the weeds on any of it. Ha-
Yes.
or-
This is right up my alley. I could talk about, the issues and the broken system with insurance, dental
Sure.
insurance all day. But so is this going to be for periodontists? Going to be for GPs? What type of practice is this going to
Yeah,
be?
it'll be a GP driven practice at its core, but I'd like for all specialists to be rotated through. So I also think that the kind of paradigm of the general dentist being segmented out from all of the other specialists and the way that we refer out by and large to, from the general practitioner to other specialists just introduces a lot of I'll call it leakage of follow-up of care, right? So the not everybody calls up this new practice and travels to the new practice to see the specialist and follows through with that care. And it's just not a very I'll call it patient-centric or patient-focused sort of feel. And so I'd like to be able to, in an ideal world, have everybody under one roof. But GP driven and hygiene driven.
Hmm.
GP and hygiene as the workforce of the practice.
And what's how are you gonna? Is it just going to be without insurance? Is it going to be a fee for service type practice?
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of practices now are, I mean, there are a ton of qualms that dentists have with insurance. It's the reimbursement rates are compressed over time. There are waiting periods from the time someone gets an insurance. There are all kinds of other kind of time lags that are introduced when, you can only do X number of, say, quadrants of certain treatment at a time and then have to wait for another day or another appointment to actually complete that treatment. Or the fact that there's a cap on benefit introduces a lot of like really wonky behavior where you'll start a whatever it is a root canal and then have to wait till the next calendar year or insurance cycle for completion of the crown because the patient's waiting for the benefit. So I don't want to touch insurance at all. So yeah, entirely fee for service. And I think I'd really like to lean into a membership-based model. So lots and lots of practices out there have a membership option for those that don't take insurance. I think you do that, right? You have a membership. Do you also, are you entirely fee for service, or you also take some plans?
No, we're totally out of network.
Okay.
We do help the patient with processing their claims and all the coding and all that, but for most of the plans, they pay up front and then they get reimbursed. So we're totally out of network, and we have a membership plan that I love, and I think it's a must. So I love the fact that you're doing this. Is this going to be the membership plan? Is that going to be kind of the backbone of the practice?
Yeah, the idea, and we'll see how things play out. I'll test out and iterate a ton in the beginning to find what I'll call product market fit, right? To find what works and what speaks to the general population. But I would really like to go in a membership required direction. So really all in on the model. I don't know of many folks that do that today. Most that are fee for service and don't take insurance will have it as an option. But I really think that it's a not only a viable model. I think a lot of the dental profession will shift in that direction over the next decade, 10, 15 years, what have you.
Do you think that you'll be able to do this because it's a scratch office, whereas, a practice like mine, I've been there 20 years and we were riddled with insurance plans, but then we strategically started to drop them, with our smallest ones, and then we ramped up to Delta a year and a half ago.
Hmm.
Um, and we were able to, get most of our patients to stay and either pay up front and deal with being out of network, or some of them switched over to our membership plan. But if we were just to tell everyone, all of our patients, send out an email saying we're only it's a must that you have to be part of our membership plan, it may have gone horribly wrong. Do you think that having the startup and the fact that it's a scratch office, you'll be able to do this?
I'd say I'd say it's doable in any case. In your office scenario you're describing, I think you have to. expect a lot of patient churn. You will lose patients for sure if you say, "Hey, now you've got to pay several $100s a year, or whatever it is to be a member here, or even a couple $100." It's definitely a barrier. You will lose patients, but you know, I could probably say the same thing about the scenario before you had cut off all insurances and gone fee for service. Will you lose patients? For sure. There are going to be people that leave. You won't have 100% retention, but will your retention be 80% or 30%? I don't know. So yeah, it's the conversation is definitely different when you have a profitable, cash flowing dental practice, and make a radical change like that. Yeah, you have to tolerate that risk and knowing there will be churn. And so that's going to be a much, much harder thing for folks that already have practices to do. Is it doable? Sure. It's just how much I'll call it pain are you willing to take in terms of patient loss?
Yeah, I think there's so much with prep, being doing strategically and being prepared. We expected to lose patients. We actually lost less than I thought.
Yeah.
And there's patients that are coming back. They left and they went to a different dentist and they're coming back. So that's going to happen too. But and then what's funny is the patients that you never thought would leave did, and then the ones that you thought would leave in the drop of a hat didn't. But being prepared and controlling the narrative, getting the staff on board, getting that verbiage down, just getting everyone with the same message about focusing on the quality of care and not about the insurance, was really what made it successful for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a big piece of it. Obviously, communication to patients. I also think that, I don't, do you have an associate at your office, or it's you, or what's
We
your?
do. We actually we grew. We also downsized. We were able to because we went out of network. We were at a capacity issue, and we had three associates, me, my partner, and five hygienists, and we even had to get a temporary hygienist.
Mhm.
But going at it, and we were at a capacity issue. It was 7 months or 8 months to get a cleaning, and by going out of network, we did lose patients, but we were able to get rid of our temporary hygiene. But we did have to cut loose, unfortunately, our associates,
Mhm.
two of them, because we had to focus on keeping me and my partner busy. I mean, it
Right.
is what it is, but
Yeah.
um,
That all tracks, and I mean the way I think that most practitioners are incentivized, and most of the dental profession kind of structures that incentive is largely tied to productivity, right? To production and or collections. There may be some sort of net with a guaranteed base pay or something like that, maybe in a transition period at the beginning of an employment. But and I understand why this works. I understand why tying that unit economics and directly correlating it makes sense. What I'd love to do is see if you can kind of re-underwrite assumptions and instead tie, I'll call it performance-based incentive or bonus incentive, to health and happiness. So to the health of your patients, right? Like, are your patients coming in for their routine hygiene visits, and are you hitting a certain percentage of your recall number? And is a certain percentage of treatment plan actually being completed, right? Are you getting patients to health? And are patients happy? Like I've spent 10 years now, very very in the weeds, in a technology business, not in a delivery of care business on a dental practice. And there's the concept of a net promoter score, right? How likely are you as a customer to recommend that a friend of yours come to the same place, or be a customer of the same business, or a patient of the same practice? Some practices may do it. I would guess that the majority don't. And I think that's probably a very if you are keen on getting that number up and focused on your patient happiness and really really kind of align towards that, rather than just overall productivity numbers. I think your practice will grow. You're setting yourself up for growth because the experience is going to be a good one that people talk about. So Yeah, I don't. Again, I'm speculating, but I think, and I'll be able to test this out a whole bunch, but I think that that will be a successful path forward, is sort of reorienting everybody's kind of KPI or North Star metric to health and happiness rather than dollar productivity. It introduces all kinds of misalignment with the patient when everybody's human, every practitioner is human, so is thinking about, oh, I have my student loans to pay off, or oh, I have my kids tuitions now that keep increasing in cost every year as my kids are growing older, and or I just bought a house, and whatever. We're all human, we have those in the back of our mind, and that may introduce how treatment is planned and delivered. And so in an ideal world, we can just kind of remove all of that from potentially impacting uh, care and treatment of patients.
Love it,
So
man.
yeah,
I
we'll
can't
we'll
wait.
we'll see.
Can't wait to hear how this goes because that's such a great idea, I love our membership plan and in our office. I think it's such a must. Um, all right, Scott, let's wrap up with some final questions. I usually ask two, but I'm going to ask you three,
Ooh,
and I can repeat these.
okay.
I wanted to first find out how do we find out more about your podcast, your website, anything you're up to. I want to find out some ups and downs during your career, and then the last one, and I can repeat these. The last one, advice for the young dentist out there.
Amazing. I'll take them in reverse order. So, advice for young dentists out there. I would say be proactive. So many people lose out on opportunities because they literally don't ask the question. They don't reach out and send the cold email or ask someone for an introduction. There are so many people out there who are experts in whatever they do, who are actually excited to help out younger, up and coming folks in their profession, but unless they're reached out to, they have no idea, right? And so I had no experience with e-commerce or healthcare, the supply chain in healthcare before I got, up and running with Supply Clinic. I didn't go to school for it. I had no background. And so my philosophy was, okay, I need to learn as much as I can and read and consume. There's so much free content out there. Online in general, people have their own podcasts with a ton of information. There are plenty of people who are experts, have written books. Just get the book and consume that, and be proactive. My philosophy with my brother was, we knew what we didn't know and were like brutally honest about it, and surrounded ourselves by people. We joked, we said, people who either had much less hair than we have or much more gray hair than we have, right? People who are just been around the block, and we could learn from. And so we put together an advisory board for Supply Clinic of an ex Amazon executive, so we could really lean in and take advantage of all that experience from the e-commerce world, from someone who is from the company arguably best at it in the world. We took on an advisor who founded the second largest group purchase organization that supplies hospital systems in the U.S. Like we just, and a lot of these were just cold email outreaches that folks responded to. So be proactive about your own education and your own conversations with folks. Like, don't hesitate to reach out and see what resources are available to you or what people are willing to help. That's my big piece of advice. In terms of ups and downs was the middle question.
Mhm.
Man, we went through a tremendous roller coaster over, a decade with Supply Clinic, from starting something from scratch and employing our first folks, and we were then responsible for their income and their the health of them and their family, and that's a big leap, but I don't think anything prepares you for it. You just got to jump in and sort of do that. Um, to growing and then navigating when shit hits the fan. And hopefully I can say that on the podcast, or bleep it out. But that happens in, like, that will happen. You'll have a business, you'll have a practice that's running, and then something breaks, or the main water line breaks or electricity goes out or a pandemic hits, right? Like you can't prepare for these black swan events. And you just have to figure it out and roll with it and think on your toes and tackle it. And things come up. And yeah, the pandemic hit and it was like we went out to fundraise to raise I think it was a seed round like February of 2020. Well, guess what? Come end of March, there was no capital to be raised, right? The whole world shut down. Oh, and by the way, all of our customers were closed. There was nobody buying dental supplies actively, except for one major exception was PPE.
Mhm.
So what we said was okay at the time, like we were, we had like our runway was in a number of months. It was like we had 3 months runway and would otherwise have had to close the doors. And it was like a fast pivot. What do we do? Okay, well, we have relationships upstream with manufacturers that produce all this PPE and it's selling. PPE in a pandemic sells better than hotcakes, right? There's like no end of demand for it. And so, figuring out those connections and then basically opening up to selling to those who are most in need. So the guy who had founded that large group purchase organization was putting us in touch with CEOs and VPs of supply chain at hospitals. And there was plenty to sell. And it was just navigating that crazy, crazy moment in time where I'd be up at 6 a.m. on calls with folks on the East Coast and then at like 2 in the morning with production line checks with OEMs in East Asia. And like I had, a beard that was like half a foot long because I was like living in a twilight zone. It was just like a crazy, crazy moment in time. But yeah, there are and then to make a long story short, we ended up making in profit more than we were hoping to raise in a capital round. So we got the money we needed without having to dilute any, give away any equity in the company. So yeah, just man, lots and lots of those crazy moments, and they will come up, and it's just okay. I'm here, I'm in it. What do I like? What are all, map out possible paths forward and pros and cons, and just figure it out. Yeah, I mean, man, lots and lots of stories came out of that probably 18 months post March of 2020. But yeah, so that just a little bit of a taste for some of the ups and downs and what that was like. And then how to get a hold and how to find out what we're up to. So supplyclinic.com is the website. Totally free to use. Go check it out, shop around, see if there's a better deal than, whatever supplier you purchase through regularly. The podcast, Open Wide Podcasts, check it out on any of the podcast hosts. All of the interviews we titled Conversation With and then have the name of the person. So check those out and lots of kind of startup advice and stories that Janesh and I tell in some of the episodes. So yeah, that's all out there in the public domain. And the best place to find me and what I'm up to is LinkedIn. Honestly, that's where I sort of several years ago got way overwhelmed with all the Facebook groups and how massive some of them had grown and couldn't follow and keep track. And I just kind of, yeah, I've shifted over to mostly to LinkedIn. And so for anybody listening out that wants to, reach out, direct message me there, and I'm pretty active and yeah, pretty responsive there. So yeah, that should be it.
Yeah, I'm a huge LinkedIn fan. I loved your comments about the ups and downs, and my podcast and my book, and a lot of what I do is called the Stress Free Dentist. But in reality, there's going to be tremendous amounts of stress. It's just to understand that it's going to happen and how you deal with it is the important thing. And this life as a dentist or entrepreneur, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And there's going to be lots of ups and downs. So, Scott Drucker, amazing episode. Love what you're up to, and I think you're helping a lot of dentists out there. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be in touch.
Eric, thank you for having me on.
Thanks again for listening to the Stress Free Dentist podcast. And don't hesitate to get in touch with me at info@thestressfreedentist.com. And if you haven't already, please subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Until the next episode, I'm Dr. Eric Block, the Stress Free Dentist.